My favorite movie?
That's probably a hard question.
It is a hard question. I tell you what I usually answer because it's true. If you had 10 beautiful puppies in a basket and somebody said, which is your favorite puppy? You'd never be able to say that one above all else because you love them all for a different reason.
Right.
And that's true of all my movies. I've loved them because one was a beautiful place to go, another was a lovely script, another was the people that I worked with or the songs that I sang. So each one has taught me a great lesson, and it's hard to say which ones. I'd rather ask you which ones are your favorites.
Very common. Well, speaking of the movies you were in, have you ever watched yourself in your own movies?
I don't do that often, but I have a lovely little grandson who was 2 or 3 when he first saw Mary Poppins, and his mother, my daughter that I write with, she didn't want him to see any of my movies too soon because he might not make the connection, but wouldn't you know, he went to a birthday party and they were showing Mary Poppins. So she came to pick him up and she found him close to the television like this, looking terribly puzzled. And she knelt beside him and she said, "Do you think you recognize that lady?" And he went, And she said, "Do you think it might be somebody we know?" And he went, "Maybe." And she said, "Do you think it might be Granny Jules?" And he went, "Oh, yes!" So from then on, I rated very high for about 6 months.
This is a question from Jeanette, and I think this is when you were 12 years old.
Yes.
Were you scared or stressed when you performed in front of the Queen of England?
Oh, I did a lovely performance for Her Majesty the Queen of England when I was about 12 years old, and I wasn't stressed because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what it felt like to be scared. I was very honored and very excited, but it's only when you've done something really good and then you have to match it later on and you match it later on that you get a little bit nervous and you want to better yourself all the time. So I wasn't nervous that first time. I was later.
This is a funny one. Now, can you still say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious backwards?
You want to hear it? Okay, here it comes. It is docious expiistic fragicalirupus.
Now, was it fun making Princess Diaries 1 and 2?
Yes.
And are there plans for Princess Diaries 3?
Well, I don't know.
Not sure.
There's talk about it sometimes, but I think that the lovely Princess Annie Hathaway, who's a great friend and she's a lovely, lovely young lady, is doing so well with her career that I don't know whether she would consider coming back, and I can't imagine it being done without her. So I'm not sure about Princess Diaries 3.
Right.
I wish I could be.
So, how old were you when you started performing and singing?
I started learning to sing when I was about 7 years old, and to my parents' astonishment, they discovered that I had this freak singing voice. It was very, very long and way high, so high that if I practiced, you know, dogs in the area would howl and not know what they were hearing. But it was a kind of freakish voice that stood me in very good stead, and I became Britain's youngest soprano. And so I had a very, very good teacher very quickly, and I stayed with her for the rest of her life. And thank God for that, because she taught me well, and I didn't harm my voice, so.
Oh, good. What was it like to work with your daughter as co-author?
Oh, it's wonderful. Who could have said that when I had a little girl and she was this high, that we would one day be talking to each other as equal women, that we would be writing our books together as we do. I have 5 children and I have 7 grandchildren, but this particular daughter writes with me, and it is an absolute joy. We giggle a lot, we drink a lot of tea, and we sometimes communicate by those wonderful iChat cameras on top of our computers, because she lives in Long Island and I live here, so it's a little difficult sometimes to write together, but that actually makes it possible.
Right? So, do you have any private hotels or limos or helicopters or beach houses? We're all wondering.
Oh, private
That was
hotels.
from Preston.
Well, I've decided that if I ever win the lottery, the first thing we'll get is perhaps our own airplane. Wouldn't that be fun to have your own airplane?
Oh, yes.
But I don't have any of those. I have a small home back in Long Island just so I can work with my daughter. But basically my home is here. And my lovely husband, Blake Edwards, is here, who made all the wonderful Pink Panther movies. Most of my grandchildren are here, except for Emma's back east. So I'm here more than I'm not, but I do go back as often as I can.
Oh, good. So I read The Great American Mouseicle is being adapted as a musical. Is that true?
One of our recent books is a little book about a troupe of performing mice who live beneath the boards of a Broadway theater. And the whole idea was to bring to all of you what it is like to be that small and really find out what a theater is like and what it's like to work in it. So it's called The Great American Mouseicle. And we've been lucky enough, it's our second project. Simeon's Gift is one, which you'll be seeing this summer. And the second one is called The Great American Mouseicle, and it's being done as an adult and children's and family musical comedy. It'll be a couple of years yet, but we're working on it hard.